Yeah. Property of the Department of Homeless Services, New York City. Alright. This guy right here, that guy's a vet. Different era, but a vet. That's me right there. Former Special Forces Airborne Ranger. What'd you do in the Army?
I was a computer technician. Basically, I repaired computers that we used to fire howitzers and things like that.
So he was in the artillery?
No, it was ordnance.
Okay.
Ordnance/maintenance, yeah.
Okay. When I came in today, he had left dessert for me on my bunk.
Well, I gave one to everyone.
Yeah, I know. We're veterans, and we live in this little room. What's this, about 18 by 12?
If that.
If that. 4 men. Those are 4 lockers. And this is a conversation I wanted to have because this morning I got a call from the medical director of the Bronx VA, the James J. Peters Medical Center, who works in collaboration with Mount Sinai Hospital. And Mount Sinai Hospital works in cooperation with the big pharmaceuticals. In any event, you know about the story, right?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay. I'll refresh your memory. I went to work one day at the library, and who shows up? The editor and publisher of the New York Page newspaper, who carried 2 of my stories. And he apologized to me, and he thanked me for my perseverance in this cause I've been fighting. And that cause was for justice. And I know now there's no such a thing in the United States of America. In any event, he referred me to a homeless organization where I met a social worker. And the only reason why I liked the guy is because he was compassionate. He was kind. His name is Chris. And this guy nurtured a relationship with me that led for me to respect him and his organization. As a matter of fact, the reason why I'm not dead now is because one of the women at that organization called me up and said, Dryce, please, I swear to God, she just like that, she said, Dryce, please, don't stay on the beach. Don't stay on the beach. And don't go sleep under the boardwalk. I listened to her. If not, I'd have been on the beach and I'd have been dead in Sandy. And what would have led to that would have been because the allegations are that the Bronx Veterans Administration was negligent. The Bronx Veterans Hospital was negligent. And they were negligent because when I went to this homeless organization, they ended up referring me to a VA-funded facility. That VA-funded facility is called Volunteers of America. I was there a month. They knew who I was. They knew what I was doing. And they knew I'd been on the street for over 2.5 years because I was afraid for my life. the son of New York State Senator Huntley, came up dead after I had exposed his story, and they took him in. That's how they had access to him, because he was no longer in the street. And the allegations are that they gave him, he can't be under your care, under the care of a New York State Senator, and he has an overdose. He's an expert junkie. Junkies get high to get high. Junkies don't make a mistake getting high and kill themselves because they can't get high no more. You get my point?
Yeah.
And then it was so convenient that he had this drug overdose within 45 days of me serving the state senator, along with every elected official in town, the mayor of New York, every single agency, the Queens District Attorney, Human Resources, Adult Protective Services, and the NYPD, and numerous other named individuals in a lawsuit that's unprecedented in history in New York State. And that's after I had spent over 3.5 years in another lawsuit, which was an Article 78 petition to get it adjudicated that, in fact, I was wrongfully evicted. And I got that. Meanwhile, I spent over 2.5 years fighting with the newspapers, bugging them to look at my story. I ran into a guy called John Daniel. He loves my shows on YouTube. And he went to the big guys at the Daily News, and they put 12 reporters on my story. And that ended up leading to the almost a month of newspaper stories showing how New York City Housing Authority had been sitting on about $1 billion, another $500-600 million of stuff that, they didn't even know what they had. I mean, these guys are like up to their neck in trouble. Had it been any other mayor, other than Mayor Bloomberg, who, as a Haitian, I say that because he's a Jewish white boy, and he's got that much money, he's a media mogul, nobody's going to touch him no matter what he does. This is New York City. It's a Yiddish city-state. I believe it's a satellite colony of Israel proper, where people are recruited from Borough Park to go sit on Palestinian land in Israel and all of that crap, which is a totally separate matter, but it basically says that the Jewish community owns this town, lock, stock, and barrel, and a Jewish man can do any goddamn thing he wants and get away with it. Basically. Because if you catch his political appointee in civil rights violations, which is every single political appointee that he named Commissioner of Housing, by it having been found that those guys were diverting federal funds since 2005, anybody else, they would have strung them up, yes or no?
I think so. I'm not sure. I don't know the whole.
Okay, guess what? Where else in the United States of America is it going to be found that hundreds of millions of dollars have been diverted? The federal dollars have been diverted, and nobody goes to jail, and it's just a newspaper story.
I'm not sure. Not that I couldn't think of a place, but
You can't think of a place.
No.
Me neither. That's all I'm trying to say. Because I believe that the undue influence of the religious exemption that Mayor Bloomberg has, and the fact that he's such a media mogul, he's a personal, not multinational. Period. See, I'm not American. I couldn't care what your religion is.
Yeah.
But I do know, from having studied people in this country, that certain people have certain privileges. And it depends either on your skin color, your religion, or a combination of, and all of that stuff. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So we've got hundreds of millions of dollars and nobody's saying nothing. But since this has to do specifically about veterans, okay,
Okay.
leading back to where we came from,
Yeah.
which is thousands of veterans have also been eliminated out of public housing through this whole social cleansing, scum cleansing, slum cleansing, ethnic cleansing of minority people out of public housing, because housing is closed. It's closed. They didn't buy any new buildings, and they didn't build any new ones to accommodate finding 16,000 new apartments every year. In the past 10 years, 16,000, that's 160,000 apartments.
Yeah.
When the hell did they build that? And when the hell is poor black folk and Puerto Ricans going to run out of public housing to go get to go buy a house or go get anything, when in fact the banker that finances the whole thing is HUD. The property owner here in New York City is not New York City Housing Authority, and they're eliminating people through a policy that New York City Housing Authority can write, which was the 2003 Remaining Family Member Revisions that was ushered in by the mayor's political appointee named Tino Hernandez in 2003, a year and a half after Mayor Bloomberg came into power. So what you've got is a Jewish white boy that appoints a Puerto Rican to railroad his own kind. And his third chairman happens to be a black guy who's formerly with Lehman Brothers. His specialty is that he's a venture capitalist. You know what they do?
Basically, they usually put, aren't they the ones that usually
Let me
make
tell
bets against...
Let me tell you. A venture capitalist comes into your business, breaks it up into tiny little pieces, and sells it off. That's how he makes his money.
Okay. Sort of like what Mitt Romney does and stuff like that.
That's right.
Okay.
Big money.
Yeah.
In other words, you get a building like this, you do exactly what they're doing here. This room right here makes about $750 a day. Do you know that?
Wow.
For 4 beds. Between the meals, the tokens they give you, the guys that run the place, the security, the maintenance guy, the heat, the lights, and all of that stuff. All right? Now, are you still with me? I'm not anti-Semitic, okay? My great-grandfather was a Jewish white boy that took a black woman from Trinidad, married her, she converted, and they had a son. That son is my grandfather. Yeah, okay. We here? Good. Now, let's get back to the story. The story is, I fought these guys, I won, I got a lawsuit, I won, but then they went back to a lower court to enforce an eviction order. And Mayor Bloomberg had a staffer called a marshal, the guy that was supposed to come and evict me, and had the guy deliver me his regards at my eviction. Now, isn't that something crazy?
It would sound pretty crazy, yeah.
Well, I'm about to prove it in court.
Okay.
Now, year and a half goes by. During that year and a half was when I met the son of New York State Senator Huntley in the street. Well, how do you make friends with a junkie?
You usually try to get them clean, or...
No, you give him money for him to go get high. So I gave him money. And I was compassionate to him because he's a former Marine, he's a vet. And he gave me all their secrets. I put that together, and in January of 2011, I sent the evidence to the Attorney General, and I got a complaint number, 2011-0073. That would make me the client of the Attorney General, wouldn't I?
Okay, yeah.
Good. That means he can't defend the people I complained about against me.
Yeah.
That's why I've got him in court now, busting his behind.
Because of the conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest and attorney misconduct, because You've got a whole bunch of these guys, like right here in the Bronx, you got Silva, you got all of these people that get criminally charged and then prosecuted and convicted. The Attorney General don't go on TV and on YouTube and lay out the whole prosecution. But if he did that to Shirley Huntley, New York State Senator, just before, less than 60 days before her primary election, wouldn't that guarantee that she gets voted out of power?
That sounds like it would, yeah.
That's exactly what he did. That's why I filed a motion against him to have him disqualified. So now all of this is going on, and I'm happy. I'm living quite comfortably over there. They got internet. I'm working. But when I had my first intake interview, there I met this woman that's about 350 pounds, 5'8", called Charmaine McPherson. That's a supervisor, social licensed case social worker. I worked for the VA. A very abusive, condescending, matriarchal kind of person who's just a big bully. And I went through the interview, didn't say nothing, and I complained to Fauna Baptiste, who's supposed to be my doctor at the hospital. Oh, well, that's just the way she is. And everybody you talk to at the VA is, that's just the way she is. Oh, Charmaine got her ways. So you mean to tell me you've got a big Watusi Mandingo mixed super field Negro that's going around bullying Negroes around? And the white folks love it. Why? They don't get any back talk from the black folk. And as long as they keep dismissing these veterans, that broad can keep putting them in check. And everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Until they're right, the status quo. Until they ran into me, which knows how to get on a computer and file charges with the Inspector General. And if after the second time she was abusive, even though I reported it to the vendor who did nothing, I put together a petition. And it's on the internet. We the undersigned. We, the undersigned, demand a full investigation of Charmaine McPherson's abusive behaviors against veterans. And 5 of them plus me signed the paper. So now you got 6. That's half a dozen men. And there's another half a dozen who just too scared to sign, but if somebody had the guts to send an investigator over there and tell the vendor, okay, these are all the vets. Okay, I want all of them here at 9 o'clock in the morning. Or at least, I want to see every single one of them in private. They would find that about 95% of them would say that she was abusive, condescending, pushing your buttons, doing things to you that shouldn't be done by a social worker, especially when you're a homeless guy and that place is specifically for people who have been in chronic homelessness. So you've got people that are demoralized, hopeless, and all this crap, and instead of a nurturing environment, you're being destroyed in order to be remade by this female. And like I told you, I'm not African American. I don't play that matriarchal cockamamie nonsense about I'm going to get ruled by no woman. Where I come from, I'm a man, I run the show, my woman is my woman. So now an incident happened a month after I had been there. I complained to the vendor. Then I called the VA and complained to a patient rep. Then the patient rep gave me to talk to the medical director, Dr. Julia Golia, who told me in 48 hours, call her, and then we would set an appointment for me to come in the VA and make my formal complaint. On the morning of the 48th hour on that Friday, the vendor, I'm surprised by somebody who said to me, they want you downstairs. So I'm downstairs. Now I'm being interrogated by about 4 people that are employees. So I'm surrounded by 4 people, and they're shooting questions at me. Look, I went to escape and evasion school. Not only that, I'm the former director of the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. I've got an associate's, a bachelor's, a master's, and a Jewish doctorate in international law. Now, what the hell you think you're doing, you bunch of little morons? No problem. The only problem is, all of a sudden, the police shows up. And then they direct the police to see my videos on YouTube, which is supposed to suggest that I'm some kind of a threat to Charmaine McPherson. Now, what is a vendor that's at least a couple miles away from the Veterans Administration hospital doing calling the police 72 hours after I had a conversation in front of a social worker that was on the scene that handed me the telephone, and I told her that this woman's being disrespectful, and not only that, she don't know what the hell she's talking about. I'm a Haitian. My birth certificate is in a ruined church. Okay, at least the copy is in a church, Sacred Heart Church in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Where the hell do you think I'm going to get it from? The only thing I got is a passport and a green card. And a VA ID, because I have no New York State ID. I don't drive. I don't need a New York State ID for nothing. Okay? And she was threatening. Oh, well, we'll see about that. I said, look, I'm really tired of this. I don't need this kind of nonsense. I don't want to be abused in order for me to get charity. But I'm not here for charity. This is my veterans benefits. Okay? It's VA funded. These are federal dollars. You can't torture me. You can't abuse me. You can't disrespect me. You can't do shit to me in order for me to get my benefits other than to provide them. Period. There are no conditions or there are no preconditions to me getting VA benefits. But I'm not sure that these people realized that there was somebody who knew that. And they had been getting away with it quite comfortably. So now the police looked at it. The police saw my hat. Looked at it and said, you a ranger? Yeah, 1st Battalion, 75th Infantry. Oh, man. He said, look, people. I don't know what y'all think this is, but this guy didn't threaten nobody. This guy not threatening nobody. And not only that, you see them videos? I don't see anything on the video here that threatens anybody. This is not a police matter. So now Ann Tannenbaum, the social worker at Volunteers of America, at the homeless shelter for veterans, now writes up a letter that I've been agitated for a couple of days and that to take me to the hospital as a psychiatric emergency. That's retaliation. You tried to get you a criminal matter. The cops told you there wasn't nothing there. So instead of you squashing it, you send me to the VA. Once I get to the VA, I run into a Dr. Khan, Indian guy. And I tell him the story. And then the only thing he's interested in is talking to the vendor. Talk to the vendor. I'm there 5 hours. And 3 psychiatrists coming around. Even this Jewish guy came in. I told him, look, you're a Jewish white boy. How would you like me having you locked up and the Taliban's outside? That should have told you right then and there that there's nothing wrong with this guy. Because I'm disrespecting you. If I was crazy, I'd be doing something different than trying to piss you off. Okay? Because you can't tell a Jewish boy, how would you like it for me to put the Taliban on your ass? Not in New York City. So, they locked me up for 7 days.
In the hospital or?
In the hospital, on a cycle ward. And then prescribing me medication. And then telling me I got to go to psychiatric care and to go to Brooklyn in order for them to now eliminate me. The only problem is I was homeless in a homeless shelter. And if you discharge me and you don't get me a place to stay, you'd be in trouble, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But then the thing was, what they did was to have me promise or force me to tell them that I had a place to stay in order for them to discharge me. In other words, there were preconditions. The only way you're going to get out of here is if you tell me you got a place to stay. And this is after I done wrote 2 72-hour notices, because when they realized that they locked me up involuntarily for no reason, a guy called another Jewish guy, Dr. Shear, he up and comes to me and says, Wednesdays when you're supposed to go, you can go to court, but I don't want to go to court. I don't want to have an adversarial relationship with my clients. You go ahead and sign yourself in voluntarily, and we'll let you out in a day or two. Bullshit. Bullshit. Because now what he did was make me sign myself in voluntarily, and forego me going to court to be able to show that my cognitive functions was intact. I wasn't homicidal. I wasn't suicidal. And that the allegations are that I was being retaliated against by the vendor in order to get rid of me. Because if it were found that, in fact, you had 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 veterans that were complaining about being abused by the VA social worker, and the VA social worker was the only one that was working and that came on that site to work, they'd be in a lot of trouble, wouldn't you say?
I would think so.
Right. So what do? Eliminate the troublemaker. How do you eliminate the troublemaker? You get them arrested. But you couldn't get me arrested, so what do? You send me up on the psych ward, and I'm going to tell an incredible story that nobody's going to believe. Why not? They're not going to believe no black guy that's some kind of homeless asshole that's coming in there to tell you an incredible story, especially when you tell them that you've got a Jewish doctorate in national law and that you've been living in homelessness for 2.5 years in order for you to stay alive, in order to prosecute New York City and all these people. And all of it is really, really true.
Yeah.
And so, don't you think they caught the right one this time?
I hope so. But
well, why do you think Dr. Julia, the medical director, would be calling me this morning and denying having knowledge of having had any contact with the vendor in order to work with them in collusion to retaliate against me?
Oh, okay.
Because I wrote to the Inspector General.
Yeah.
Now I've got another call from the social worker on the psych ward saying, I'm your social worker. You can't be my social worker because I'm not a fucking psychiatric patient. You're trying to cover your asses now, because the VA is going to see that, in fact, this is not the first time that mental hygiene laws were used and abused against me.
Okay.
It was done at the Veterans Administration Hospital when a congressman referred me there, and they locked me up for 3 days. Then they started feeding me lithium, and guess what the side effects of that is?
I can't remember.
My dick can't get hard. I got erectile dysfunction.
Damn. That's
And you know what they did?
They gave it to you.
When I reported, and they did this for the congressman initially at 900 milligram. About a year later, when I took to the congressman's office another whistleblower that there was a Hengstman's attack in another VA hospital at the St. Albans VA, suddenly the doctor said, you're too agitated, and raised the prescription level from 900 milligrams to 1,200 milligrams a day. Do you know anything about lithium?
No.
Let me tell you. It's a medication that's illegal for you to prescribe in New York State unless you're in an inpatient basis, and federal regulators have to be there and be coming and checking up on the patient because it has such destructive effects on your body.
Okay.
Why would somebody want to mail me that from a federal facility into New York City?
They want to keep you quiet.
Well, say that again.
I said they want to keep you quiet or discredit you.
Right. Now, what if they went into my medical records when they sent me on the psychiatric ward at the Bronx VA, and they look back at those records, lock my ass up, right?
Yeah.
Especially if the vendor has access to that information in my medical records.
Okay.
You see how I was set up?
Yeah.
So now you see why I'm getting these calls from these people at the VA?
Oh, okay.
So I think getting set up deserves another turn. I told Dr. Julia, I absolutely forgive you. I forget it. I thought you were such a monster that did all this. You didn't do it? Okay, no problem. I apologize.
Yeah.
And everything I said about you, I'm going to remove it off the internet. Number two, I called the patient rep, who was more Carmen Cruz or Carmen something. And I told her I apologize. Okay? She didn't, because they ain't doing their jobs. They're a bunch of cute little women that's in the VA that, you know, this is their life's dream. They got these easy little jobs. They don't really have to do much. Why? It's veterans. It's either you crazy or something wrong with you, especially if you're black. And they dismiss you. They got a habit that they ask you a question, you begin to answer it, they cut you off in the middle of the sentence, and they asking you other questions as if you're under interrogation. Very dismissive, very disrespectful, very condescending. And when you tell them, you know, you walk in there, if you ain't got a suit on, and you ain't playing Big Willie to them Negro females, you're just a piece of shit. What? I wouldn't know to say that if I didn't experience it. And I took him through the process. So now it's Big Elma. She's a social worker on the psych ward. She brings a housing representative in to speak to me, and guess what their question is to me? Where do you have to go when you get out of here? Instead of, Mr. Dryce, we understand that you'll be evicted, that you've already been evicted, because they already knew that the people at the homeless shelter had packed my stuff up. And why do you think they would go in my locker and pack my stuff up?
They're planning to evict you.
Not only plan to evict me, but to remove the evidence of that sheet of paper that had everybody's signature on it.
Okay.
Once they got that and they put my ass out, they think it's over. But then I call them up, and then the dumb Ann Tannenbaum sends me a piece of paper that says that I had been in there for more than 30 days. And if I was there for more than 30 days, I go into the hospital through your own referral, and I was wrongfully locked up in a psycho ward, and I'm not taking medication, and ain't nothing wrong with me, I've got a cause of action for a lawsuit against the vendor, Volunteers of America, and the Veterans Administration, who worked in collusion, willingly or unwillingly. Just because the VA can say that they didn't know, yes, you did know, because you took a piece of paper from Ann Tannenbaum that told you I was this, and that, and everything I told you, you never checked it out. You just locked my ass up and held me there. And then they're going to tell you, well, we put you there for your own safety. Own safety against what?
Yeah.
And I'll say, well, what do you mean? To protect me from what? Protect me from what? That's what nobody asked them.
Yeah.
What are you protecting me from? You're not protecting me from anything. You're protecting your vendor and your inappropriate relationship that you have with the vendor, and have had a long, ongoing relationship with a vendor to where you know that you've got a person who is abusive. Is abusive. Which is Charmaine McPherson.
Okay.
And her job is to herd niggas. Punk them out. Make them little bitches. Which is part of the African American culture as per the Willie Lynch letter. The Willie Lynch letter. All you gotta do is go on the internet and punch in Willie Lynch letter. The making of a slave.
Oh, okay.
To where you have a role reversal where you turn the women into men and the men into women. What? Don't you see African American women control all their men? Those are the ones that are given the jobs, and the niggas are just left to be pieces of shit?
Sometimes I see that.
What do you mean? I'm talking about in general.
Okay. I don't always see that, but sometimes.
What do you find in the VA hospitals?
I haven't been to too many of them.
Let me tell you. They got nothing but women in there. And the black women, they're some sassy bastards. They think they all this and all that. Yeah, you ain't never watched black women?
Not really. No. I mean, I see them, but I don't really.
Right. Well, I don't too much with them too much either, other than when I go to a bar, spend money, and I bone them. I would marry them. I'm not breeding with them. Okay?
Yeah.
In any event, we've got a problem. So I'm going to call Elma tomorrow. She won't know we did this videotape. I'm going to go ahead and tell her, you know, I'm going to sucker her like I did everybody else. But at the end of the day, what I want is for the Veterans Administration to retroactively give me all the benefits I was supposed to get and to find me a place to live.
Yeah.
Period. I want a fast track on my HUD-VASH voucher. I want my dental benefits. I want everything.
Yeah.
Because I went back, and what I did was right after they let me out the hospital. Guess what I did? Right after Sandy,
Yeah.
I went and had me a beer at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I walked in the VA hospital at 8:30 in the morning asking questions. And I went straight to Regina, and I played her. I said, look, I don't want to talk to Fauna Baptiste. Fauna Baptiste, she tried to act like she's some kind of freaking man going to be talking down to me and blah, 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 blah. Come on now. You don't do jack. You're sitting in a VA hospital. VA hospitals, there ain't no work get done there. Their relationship was with the pharmaceutical companies, and the biggest people that work there and the hardest working people in the VA hospital is the pharmacist, feeding you dope. All the medication you want. That's it. Everything is fixed through a medication. You mean to tell me I go through, in order for me to get into this thing, and this was the thing I had with Charmaine McPherson to begin with, which is, well, I decide whether you get into this program or not. I'm like, who the hell are you? This is a vendor that brought me in here because they get paid for it, and they get paid a lot of money. A whole lot of money. What it takes for the VA to pay for me per bed, per day, and meals, the VA could just give me the cash or just tell me, go find an apartment, we'll pay for it.
Yeah.
But the vendors make so much money because they're used to picking up trash off the street that they have to reform. I don't need to be reformed. I'm out of $6 million freaking dollars, Jesus Christ. My business is out of all that money. And see, that's the thing. I was able to show to the Veterans Administration Inspector General that I'm not the typical piece of trash that you pick up off the freaking street and that you think you're going to, you need to do all this crap for. I had to hide. Or else I'd have come up dead too. That's how the comptroller approved $1 million against the district attorney's office and the NYPD for acting privately under the color of law. You mean to tell me you got a congressman that just got the VA to feed you medication that's supposed to melt your brain, make you calm, make you shut up, and then he goes, along with State Senator Huntley, and have the police walking around with wanted posters looking for you all over your neighborhood, and they work out the anti-terrorism task force at the DA's office. How big a conspiracy is that, brother?
Damn, that's pretty big.
And everybody taking me for stupid because I've got the fucking guts and the balls to do something about it absolutely legally without ever being violent. Mm-hmm. So if I've got that kind of stuff that I'm dealing with, what kind of threat am I to Charmaine McPherson? I called the doctor, Julia Goldie, and said I want no more contact with her. Yeah. And I was retaliated against. Wow. I got the right to be pissed off and curse anybody out.
Well, you have the right to be pissed off anyway because it's free speech.
Well, see, that's the whole thing. You're not allowed to do that if you go to the VA hospital. Yeah. You're not allowed to have free speech. Once you walk into the VA hospital, you're subordinate to the employees. It's not a doctor-patient relationship. It's not a service that you get in there. You become, because I went in there and Fauna Baptiste should be fired. Because when I went and was speaking to Regina in there, she went and called the VA police for the VA police to roust me and to kick me out of there so they wouldn't have to give me the answers to them some very hard questions.
Yeah.
So what do you think I should do now?
Well, you're doing the right thing right now. You're bringing in evidence to prove the conspiracy. You're still making complaints keeping
because the complaint still stands.
Yeah.
Charmaine McPherson is abusive and has an inappropriate relationship with the vendor, to where she comes into that place and she acts like she's God and everybody's kissing her ass. And she abuses these guys. She has an air of a threat and and a way of demoralizing you, to tame you, and to have hanging over your head that she's the one who decides whether you get a place to stay. That you can kiss my ass. Do I look like I got a place to stay now? Did you see enough of my videos to see that I'll go sleep on the street, live on the beach? Did you see that? I want a full investigation of all of the matters. I'm not retracting anything. I despise my existence in this country, and I'm ashamed of being a veteran. I shouldn't have done shit for your freaking country. What you bastards did to me, I'm not your God to forgive you. But I think you've probably had enough. And if you didn't, come on back for some more. There'll be later sessions. Bye-bye.